Evening, gentlemen. Welcome to Man's Hour 30 on sports. 30 episodes. Can you believe it? We're pounding these things out like candy. My God. I'm joined by two gentlemen of power. Dan, how are you, sir? I think you're muted. No, he'll come on. All right, we'll go to guard. Chris, the bard of the dissonant right and the guy behind the fantastic theme music. How are you, sir? Welcome to Man's Hour.
Yeah, good. I forgot how epic that intro was.
oh, it's amazing, isn't
it's
it?
ridiculous. It just slams.
Oh, I love
Absolutely
it. I
slams.
love it. You would not believe the reactions I get from people who come on the show for the very first time. Every single one of them says the same thing, like, "Oh man, that's amazing! It fires me up. It's badass. It's fantastic."
Yeah, it's
Awesome.
worse when you have two tabs open in the background that you forgot about, and then you get it in triplicate.
Nice. Well, Dan, welcome, sir. How are you?
Well, thanks for having me on. Yeah, and I'm absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much.
Yeah, excellent. Well, it's good to get you guys finally on Man's Hour. It's been a long time coming, but I have assembled a panel from all four corners of the globe to talk about sports and competition and competitiveness and everything. Things that are very important to men of all stripes and all times and all places. So this is
let's be clear here. You gathered people from the three countries that actually matter.
Well, yeah, of course. Ruling the world as ever. Indeed. So I got the itching to do this topic, of course, because this Sunday for us Americans is indeed a Super Bowl Sunday, second Sunday in February. So the championship for the NFL, National Football League. This year we got the Philadelphia Eagles and Kansas City Chiefs. I couldn't really give a rat's ass about either of the two teams, but it's just a fun thing to go around.
I want to know how gay is Super Bowl this year?
Yeah, it's been getting progressively more and more gay over the last couple of years. But it's tough, and this is actually kind of something I wanted to talk about with this as well, is that obviously it's a big problem that all of our sports. I mean, I'm sure in your guys' countries it's no different with like politicization in your sports and everything, but over here it's getting
they still do the kneeling shit over here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's getting more and more absurd. And one of the sports that was actually like the most based over here, probably because it was played by almost a specific demographic only, was hockey, ice hockey, and that is now becoming that is now becoming infected with the virus, because there was this. It was like a couple of weeks ago. There was some guy who was Philadelphia Flyers or something refused to wear like a rainbow patch, and the media descended on him like locusts.
Russian Chad.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, it's a pain in the ass that all of our sports are being politicized and everything. But I gotta say, I still do have a soft spot for some of these events and everything, because I remember growing up in the 90s and the early 2000s when there was still like a semblance of this stuff not being there, and it was just a time where everybody just got around. We all just watched the Super Bowl. We laughed at the hilarious commercials that everyone would come up with, and it was just a good time to be around with your friends and everything like that. So
I mean, I remember specifically too when we were growing up. I think we're sort of in the same age bracket. I was born in 1990. I remember very clearly that it was when they started transitioning into including more like female commentators. It was actually very it was a novelty. And then it sort of all just went downhill from there.
Yeah, that's really true. And it's interesting you mentioned that, because that's something I, over the last, like, I'd say 5 or 6 years, I haven't really been partaking in too much of professional sports content or like Sports Center or ESPN or anything like that, but you just kind of passively pick up on these things, like when you're in a bar and you see what's on the TV. It's always like sports stuff, always. And you'll see on these sports talk shows that yes, it's just infested with women now, which like why well we know why, but like what
you
does
are not
like
allowed a space. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what does this chick have anything to say about like the actual tactics of the the intricacies of the plays and anything like this, or actually how the sport is played or anything like this? I mean, when I was growing up, they were just relegated to sideline interviews, and they were always the most attractive blonde hair, big boobs women, just to get your eyes on the screen. But now we gotta take their opinions for things as well, which is wonderful, of course.
Well, I mean, because I can sort of understand. I mean, I'm just playing the devil's advocate. I can sort of understand, for sports like cricket and whatever else, if you've got a woman who's played it her entire life and understands the game intimately, because I don't know, maybe she's got a famous cricket family member or something like that. You could probably safely trust their opinion on while commentating. But I feel like when you're talking about football, particularly like rugby, quite aggressive contact sport, that they won't really ever be able to fully understand the true nature of the danger of that game and what it's like to actually be on the receiving end of a 250-pound barreling fucking maniac coming at you at breakneck speed. It's just like you will never understand what that's like. So I don't know. I think just keep your fucking head out of it. Go away.
They absolutely just cannot experience the sport to the same degree that men can. And you see this all the time with one of the popular talking points over here is always that the women's professional soccer team in America is actually really, really good, and I guess they like won the female World Cup or some bullshit or something like that. And the American
really
men's
good
team,
at playing other women, maybe.
Exactly. And the American men's team has like never even made it to like the Sweet 16 or whatever the fuck you guys call it.
Sorry, isn't the men's league literally subsidizing the women's league?
Yes. That's what's happening at this point. Yes, they're demanding equal pay and everything, and they're saying, well, the women won the world championship and they still don't make as much money as men. It's like, because no one watches your shitty sport. Even women don't watch it.
Exactly.
That's a bit like male porn stars arguing for equal pay. I mean, you have your thing and we have our thing.
Yeah,
that's actually a really good analogy.
Yeah, it is a good analogy. Yeah. Very true. But they are just infecting,
the one thing I will say is I don't really see women in because I'm not really a big sports guy. I'm more into my sort of martial arts and boxing, but you don't really see women permeating into that. Like boxing commentary, I've never seen a woman do the commentary on that. Don't know if you guys have.
No, not that I've seen.
Because they can't even pretend to know what's going on there.
No, they're still regulated to ring girls basically in their bikinis, holding up the signs as it should be. I don't know. I've always found like female martial arts like just off-putting. There's just something off about it, and I can't exactly put my finger on it. It's not just to say like, back to the tomboy abs discussion that we've talked about many times, but it's also just, it's like watching like two kids fight each other.
Yeah, they well, I mean, there are some that are pretty brutal, but there's a weird thing too with the female mixed martial arts sort of like competitive mixed martial arts with the women, is you do still have that select few of them that are just doing it because yes, I'm a girl boss, I can fight, rah rah rah. But there's this other part of it which is it's sort of populated by genuinely fucked in the head women who just want to fight, and maybe they have naturally higher testosterone levels or something like that. I'd assume that's the case, because you look at them and it's just like, and it's a tested sport, but you look at them and you're like, Jesus fucking Christ, that woman has some chromosomal confusion. Let's just put it that
way. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And
but you look at the female sports, the team sports, and you're looking at them and it's like, you should not be in sports. Like, you are useless. It's so fucking hopeless.
Yeah. The classic example always is, I was mentioning earlier the soccer team in the United States, but there was a exhibition match that was held by that exact same World Cup team that won the women's sport. They played an exhibition match against a high school men's team down in Texas, and the high school men's team beat their ass.
Was that with that? What was her name? Rapinoe?
Rapino or whatever. The purple-haired feminist bitch,
Isn't she
going to the White House now? Going to the White House to talk to the president, mind you. Absolute girl boss.
Wonderful indeed.
I think there's only one sport where women do have a natural advantage, which is figure skating. And I don't know if you saw, but there's some tranny bloke decided that he was going to be a woman and then do some figure skating. Just
on his arse, I saw that on Twitter. I was like, I do remember seeing that. Yeah, and like tried to get up again. They just completely fell flat on his face. Yeah.
So porn and figure skating. I'm building a list.
Yeah. I guess I don't know. Maybe there's something different about I don't know what would you call those? Like, I don't know, like graceful sports or something like that, like figure skating or something. I don't know, like maybe like ballroom dance or something. Like I don't know, something not so.
Acrobatics.
Yeah, gymnastics, things like that. Yeah, I guess that's yeah. Well, of course. I mean, how could we forget? I mean, beach volleyball. I mean, that's
Yeah, I actually went to the London Olympics in 2012. I was in finance at the time, and I kept getting asked if I wanted to go to anything, and the only thing I wanted to go to was beach volleyball because of the girls in bikinis. But I mean, seriously, no, I sat there for like 20 minutes. Because they brought on the women and then they sort of alternated with the men, and I thought I was just gonna watch the women, but actually the women were really boring because the game was so slow. And in the end, I ended up doing it the other way around and just like staying for the men's because the game was just so much faster and more interesting. And then when I got on beer when the women came on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean,
well, it goes to show that where the the revealed preferences of the Olympics committee is when it comes to stamping out sexism and creating gender parity in the sport, is the fact that they still have kept in the panty eating asses of female volleyball, where it's literally just like softcore porn on the fucking sandpit. It's like if they were really serious about it, they would be putting them in loose shorts and loose t-shirts, but no, they still have these ridiculously revealing
hey guard, I'm here for it, man.
Well, that's right, but I'm saying that like it just shows that inherent hypocrisy in it, doesn't it? It's just like they know what makes the money with volleyball. So
I think there should be complete equality between the genders in the sense that men play volleyball without shirts and women should just have their shirts off when playing as well. I think it's fair.
Free the nipple.
Yeah, exactly. I remember I think it was this week on UO that got brought up quickly. They were talking about like free the nipple or something like that. I thought that was mentioned, and I'm like, it's just so funny. Like please go ahead, ladies. That'll really show the men. Let's see. JD, good friend of the channel here. Darts will always be for fat guys on 50 cigs a day. Yeah. Have you guys ever like met a chick who's like really good at darts? I don't really think I can. But can you really call darts a sport? I don't know.
Yeah,
no. I mean, is chess a sport?
Well,
I mean, I think you're dealing with hand-eye coordination, so I suppose it is a sport in a way.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I don't know. Like if who the fuck was that famous astrophysicist who was wheelchair bound? Stephen Hawking. If he could play chess, I don't think it's a sport. I mean, it's I think you do need to have like some physical, some physicality has to be involved in some way. I don't know. I mean, they call fucking curling a sport, in the Winter Olympics. So,
and shooting as well.
Well, yeah, which is the sport I have the most background in. I mean, I was a competitive marksman for several years, and that was a fantastic sport that more people should get into. But I think one of the essence of like sports, one of the most important things we should talk about here, and we're kind of touching on this already between the differences between like male and females in sports and everything, is that sports have been around, for men specifically for tens of thousands of years at this point. I mean, there's some of the first archaeological finds you find in any civilization. Everyone did it. There were sports of some kind, and they were there for multiple reasons. I think the first of all is just the camaraderie. Basically, it's essentially a way for young boys to kind of form these what are essentially war bands, essentially, from a very young age, to form these tight bonds. Mo.
So I mean, I just only yesterday saw this video because I still very occasionally check in on Facebook to see what the boomers are up to. And I came across this video because I'm part of this Queensland roofers group, because I'm a roofer in Queensland. So they're my people.
That makes
sense. I mean, they're all like ex-convicts, ex-drug addicts, but that they're all
your whole country is ex-convicts, so yeah.
But. Yeah, well, so there was this video that came up, and it was some American roofing crew just doing those nail-on fake slate tile things that you have over there that you just layer. They're really light. I think I don't know what they're made of. But anyway, yeah, and it was a team of literally about 15 women on one roof doing this roofing job. God. All of them in harnesses, and it was like specifically promoted as this girl put together this girl team to prove that women can do whatever men can do. And I was just looking at it. I was like, this never works. I mean, we all remember that famous story of that rich ex CEO woman who had formed her own corporation using only women, and the entire project fell apart within 6 months because they all fucking started hating each other and undermining each other, and fucking it was like, this just does not work. Like, women are not group animals. They're like, their social circles are very small and flat. They're not hierarchical, whereas men immediately assemble themselves into a hierarchical structure in a group, and they work better in a large group, and they thrive better in a large group, whereas women don't. They prefer one-on-one or one-on-two.
Yeah.
So
I think tying it into sports, that's a good point about hierarchies itself, because in any sport, whatever it is, there's a captain of the team. There's a guy who's in charge. There's a guy who gives orders to the other people. I mean, in football, we got the quarterback. He's the leader on the field, and that translates well into basically all facets of male life, whether it's in the workplace or on the battlefield, wherever.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is, with guys, you don't really even need to give that many orders, if any. I mean, they just sort of all sort themselves out. I mean, one of the best examples for me on this is, I can't remember what it's called, but it's some series where they get a bunch of people and they stick them on an island and they've got to figure shit out. And the women, basically, they get together and they spend like the entire time debating amongst themselves who's going to do what. And they don't do anything. And the guys, they don't. It's not like they have a meeting and they say, okay, you do this and you do that. Or anything. It's just like one guy, he goes off and sets up a fire. Another guy, he goes off and gets some water. Guys, they just figure it out somehow.
And even if like one of them does just sort of, because there is always a leader. One of them, like it's automatically assigned subconsciously within basically the first 5 seconds of a group of guys getting together. Like, you already have subconsciously assessed who is where. And you've got some competing members in a large group always. But for the most part, it literally just happens automatically. And it's usually like these little subtle cues that, each man gives when he's there. It's all unconscious. Yeah. And so that's why it's just, we've evolved to be this way. Whereas, as you say, women will literally have to cognitively and consciously try to fucking figure out who's in charge and who does what.
Yeah.
It's quite funny.
I mean, I think, go ahead, Dan.
I was going to say, no, to your point about a war band. I mean, I'm just thinking about like the origins of sport and where it's come from, and your other point that you made about it being a sort of evolved behavior. That's true. I mean, the only reason that we're still here as a species, I mean, especially take Europe, where I'm from, the UK or Europe, we've got basically no natural predators around. And the reason for that is it's because we got fed up with, bears and wolves eating our kids. So we formed into bands, we went off and we took out anything that was going to be a threat to us. And that's why, we just don't have any predators here. We simply would not be around as a species anymore if it wasn't for this ability to coordinate. So therefore, all guys have this sort of hunting, coordinating behavior within them. And I think sports, as much as anything, is just that behavior has to come out. I mean, it's just bubbling up.
Isn't the formal concept of team group sports, isn't that really just a way of filling in the time that you're not out warring with other people? Basically, and that was basically the way to. I mean, they did it everywhere. I mean, look at the Raj and whatever. Whenever they're not on any sort of campaign, they're all playing cricket with each other. So it's just
and also it's something you teach your young boys. You teach your young boys at an early age too, because I mean, we're talking about hierarchies and leading, but also one of the most important things about a hierarchy is you need to be able to serve in order to lead as well. You need to be comfortable taking orders from other people, and sports is a great way to do that. And it's also another thing we're got to touch on here. It's meritocratic, which is also very important for dudes. It's like it's actually actionable. It's like, okay, this guy is the biggest, he's the toughest, he's the strongest, he's the smartest, he's the most skilled in this certain thing. Okay, I'm going to defer, authority to him on this certain task. And, I feel like when women get into these kinds of situations and they, defer authority to another woman, it kind of like passively in their brain, they think that like, oh, that bitch is like somehow better than me or something like that.
Yes, that's exactly right. And that's where that egalitarianism comes from, is from that. I need to tear this woman down because, like, you look at, I feel quite sad for the fact that so many young boys now, like, I mean, from the very start, they're in a mixed gender environment. All the sporting stuff that happens at school is all mixed gendered. and they miss out on that critical team building sort of experience that you get with just a group of boys. Because I mean, even at young age, that gender difference is really apparent. They play in completely different ways. Girls are quite soft and they're easily hurt and they cry up more, and they're a little bit more neurotic. Whereas the boys, they're willing to roughhouse, but they keep just smashing them together and expecting everything to go fine. It's like, no, you're robbing the boys of like their critical sort of development in building with groups of men and like
Yeah, and all those skills that you learn, whether it's on the field, in the practice, in the locker room, all these kinds of things are essential for you later in life. One of the popular talking points you see all the time from women that criticize men and like how terrible they are treating each other, because like men are always making fun of each other. They're so toxic, and everything like that. But that's just literally locker room talk for dudes.
It's called banter.
Yeah, you're just bantering back and forth, and those skills that you learn from your other guys, your buddy yells at you and says like, "Oh, you got a tiny dick," and then you respond like, "Oh yeah, I carry a microscope around just to show to people." That's basically agree and amplify right there, which helps you with women.
Well, we usually say that's not what your mum says.
Right? Yeah, exactly. That as well. So like this kind of banter and stuff is useful to you later in life, and it's a problem now that our young guys are not getting this very important, building blocks to what is being a man essentially.
I mean, don't worry, Red Hawk. It's not the size that matters; it's what you can afford to do with it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think another thing I'm noticing as well is that I don't know about you guys, but when we were kids, like we were kind of allowed to go off and play our own sports by ourselves, and they weren't like chaperoned, so to speak. But when I'm seeing that with like younger cousins or other people that I know, it's like the sports on the playground always have to be chaperoned by like parents and stuff like this, or teachers and stuff, to ensure that like nobody's getting picked on, or anything like this, or it doesn't get too rough or anything like that. But it's like, especially for you, like a young boy, you also need to be like acutely aware of your own strength, and you kind of learn that when you're out in the field doing these kinds of things, and if you don't like hurt other people, not like advocating like people go and like getting like fist fights and knock out teeth or anything like that, but like this is like essential part of masculinity, is being in control of your own power.
I don't know if it's even just sport. I mean, I just never see young men outside anymore. I mean, when I was a kid, we used to be outside all the time, off doing things, but I just never see young boys out and about.
Yeah, they're all in Discords, trading memes. Yeah.
The only time I saw young boys outside was about like 5 years ago when that Pokemon Go came out, and then you saw clusters of them. It was really weird. It was like, what are you doing here? But then that fad passed, and they all went again.
Do you guys like? Is it common for you? I mean, it's pretty common over here in America. You'll have like open fields, like baseball diamonds or football fields or stuff like that. Is it kind of common over there for you guys to have like football pitches or like cricket diamonds or stuff? I don't know. What
but again, to your point, they're all sort of enclosed. They're like part of a sports centre. The council has put them up, and they're all sort of supervised and monitored these days. I can't think of any near me that are just open for just people to just pitch up and go.
That's interesting, because they're almost everywhere over here. Like in basically any suburban neighborhood in America, you will have kind of like a park adjacent to a bunch of homes and stuff, and there will just be a baseball diamond out there. There will just be like an open field for people to go and play. Now, most people aren't using them as much as they used to, but at least they're there.
So where I live, Dan, how you say you don't really see boys out, kids, let alone boys out and about. We do get them here, but only because we have that sort of contingent of the middle class parents with absolute subclass children. They hang around with the indigenous kids, and while they're riding around on $1,000 e-scooter, they're also hanging out with kids that probably spend their weekends carjacking. So you've just got these roaming mixed class kids, boys, where the middle class boys just want to be cool like the naughty criminal boys. So we have that fun combination of people flying, like young kids flying around on the road on scooters, nearly getting hit by cars, and they just don't care. Totally antisocial, absolutely antisocial. So
yeah. This really is like one of the biggest issues of our time, basically. Is my buddy Ryan Stone says this all the time, like men raise as defective women, and boy, is that true. Like everywhere you look around, man, whether it's in the sports, whether we talk about like participation trophies or all that bullshit, or, these things that we're talking about, like these essential parts of masculinity, of being a man, that have been with us since, the inception of time, basically. And now they're being taken away, and it's causing some severe problems. I mean, I see a lot when I have like young guys reach out to me in like DMs and stuff. And I could just tell, like, I mean, we like to make jokes about like, based autism, and stuff like that. But, these guys really just are, they're a little bit off, and it's not their fault, but it's a big issue that we got to face.
Yeah, the problem in my generation was we had no fault divorce go through a few years earlier. So like, everybody at my school had their parents divorced, and so there was a sort of big absence of father figures around. Whereas I think that is sort of slackening off slightly. I tend to see more couples with sort of picking up the kids from school these days. But the bigger problem now is that the men who are now in their sort of 30s and 40s, they've been so emasculated by this agenda that's gone on for decades now. You might as well not have a father figure in the household, because the one that you have got doesn't know what it is to be a man anymore.
Yeah. Dan, you would have noticed too, like if you go back and watch all the movies from the early 90s until the mid 2000s, it's like every family movie, it's a divorced family.
Yeah.
Every fucking time. It's like, oh,
and that pretty much is my cutoff point. I won't watch anything past about 2005.
Yeah. Most movies right now are just absolute garbage, but yeah, I mean, it's rough out there, for us young guys. I mean, like, I looking back on it now, I mean, I was basically, I don't know about you guys, but I was in sports ever since a young age. I did all of them, and I was in them all throughout high school, almost did them in college, but decided against it, but it was just a really important part of my life. And there was a lot of, very, I guess, formative experiences there for sure. And, it's definitely weird now seeing guys who've basically been raised by like 3 generations now of emasculated dudes, and it's like the blind leading the blind at this point.
I'm actually not much of a sports guy at all. I've always been sort of martial arts and boxing, which I guess you can call them sports, but yeah, no, not so much sports. But I mean, going back again to your point on the sort of warband and stuff, I mean, that shit is important, because I'll tell you, one of the things I picked up from martial arts, I did some Krav and some more freestyle stuff. And every so often they'll put you up against like 2 or 3 guys, so you can kind of just get the experience of what it's like. And if you know what you're doing, you've got kind of a chance against 2 guys. It's possible. I mean, I'm not saying you're going to be okay, but it's possible. But as soon as you get 3 guys, I mean, you're just going to get absolutely creamed and wiped out. And what these sports are basically doing is teaching a whole bunch of men to coordinate. So the sort of the martial potential of that, if 9 guys go up against the world's best fighter, I mean, the world's best fighter's got no hope.
Yeah, no, it's not like John Wick, in real life,
or in any movie where like they're fighting everyone and they're all sort of lining up to start the fight. No, they come on him at all angles.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you were mentioning Dan about like martial arts and stuff like that. But I mean, like, yeah, having being capable of using your fists is just something smart that you should know as a dude. I mean, I won't say who, but there was a couple people in these circles. We did a meetup last year, and we got in a fist fight outside of a bar, me and like 3 of the other guys. And that was actually a pretty good bonding experience, all things considered. We just went out for a bar, had a couple drinks, and some guy, they got in it with another dude, and then before you knew it, there were 6 or 7 guys all throwing fists. But it was a hell of an experience.
Well, here's the other thing too, what you were saying about like the sort of female over supervision of boys. I mean, for the fact that they never get into fights, they're not allowed to get into a fight or like freely associate in a way that they would end up in fights and finish them off, sort of thing, where there's a definite winner or a definite loser. Because when you have enough of those experiences growing up, and especially in your young adult life, if getting into enough fights that you know what sort of fighter you are, how you'd react to different situations with different types of people, and if the like you learn how to assess the threat level of a potential altercation. I mean, I learned this through when I was a bouncer down in South Australia for many years in my younger years. you know, I got into plenty of fights. I mean, we always had the advantage of the fact that as a group of bouncers, there's always more of us than usually whoever we're against. So
Yeah, you got
we're
backup.
we're not there to beat them up. We're there to just get them out of the building. So as long as there's enough people there to restrain them, if there's a few of them, just restrain them and get them the fuck out of the building, and then wait for the cops to get there. But occasionally you do end up in scraps because they just want to fight, and they will fight you. And over time, you know, I think I've pretty much won every fight I've been in, but there were times where if I hadn't had backup at the last minute, I probably would have been fucked. And from that experience and the different types of blokes you end up in fights with, their size, their attitude, you know, how crazy are they? You know, do they have any sort of hesitation, all that sort of stuff? You figure that out from experience. But you don't figure that out if you're not allowed to do that growing up. You need that to have been through it and know what it feels like to get punched in the face for a start.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guarantee you there'd be far less, you know, bitching and internet drama going around if people did, you know, or were comfortable at some point in their life with, you know, getting choked, basically. You know, there would definitely not be so many people like drabbing their mouths about, you know, nonsensical shit for sure. You know, because you definitely do get that when you're in a room with a bunch of dudes. You know, there always is that like passive, ever, you know, omnipresence of violence that could possibly break out at any moment, you know. So like it's you see this all the time, like, you know, and guard, I'm sure you saw this, you know, being a bouncer and stuff, like the most boisterous people, you know, in the bar, whether it's men or women, are the ones that are always going to go and throw down. You know, it's like the guy who's like kind of calm and quiet and reserved is usually the guy that knows how to handle himself.
It's the guys who go quiet that you want to watch out for.
Yeah, absolutely. They're holding back. They know that, like, you know, they could just draw their sword, so to speak, at any given second, and, you know, give them what for. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing too, you know. I mean, like, kids, young boys just can't get in fights anymore, which, you know, I think is like a really healthy thing to do. I mean, one of my best friends to this day still, like, we met because he was a dick to me when we were in elementary school, and I punched him, you know, and I actually got in trouble. I'll never forget it. I got called into like the principal's office because I punched this kid. There was like the two women, you know, principals and everything, and they told my mom and my dad and everything like this. And of course, my mom was flipping out, and my dad was like, "Well, did you win?" I was like, well, yeah, kind of. You know, he's like, "Did you start it?" "No, not really." He's like, "Okay, cool, you're fine."
So JD was saying in the comments there, boxing sessions are probably a good place to meet decent friends. And there's also the question of actually, you know, getting boxing training, all that sort of stuff. But the other problem too is you might not get the proper experience of fighting if you're very well trained and certified in a certain martial art or fighting style. Because I don't know what it's like in America or in the UK, but over here, once you've reached a certain level of training, if you end up in a fight, you can actually get charged with using a lethal weapon because your fists and basically lethal. Yeah, because you can kill them with a hit, like in a certain way.
Wow. So, no, that's not over here to my knowledge. But then again, everyone's got guns over here, so
yeah.
Yeah, kind of a different weapon, you know. It's like try punching this, you know, you're gonna lose every time.
I mean, it'd be nice if people don't have to get into punch ups, but they are also character building. So
yeah,
I mean, to that point, I mean, there's a video I remember watching of two boxers, and they're like, you know, they're fighting and they're doing everything right, and they've got the footwork right, and they've got the shoulders right, and they've got their arms up, all that kind of thing. Anyway, then the fight kind of ends, and then they're like doing the shit talking afterwards for some reason. I mean, normally they're pretty good after the fight, but for whatever reason they're getting talking, and then these guys start going at each other with like a proper fight, and you know, all of that. Previous form and style and footwork, all of that goes out the window.
That's right.
Yeah, and they're just like slapping around and, you know, waving arms about.
Yeah,
that's right. I've seen that before. I mean, once when I was in Tasmania, I was on my night off. It was like, I think it was my 19th birthday or something. So I was at the nightclub that I usually worked at, and that one of the notorious boxing heroes of that town in Devonport, I can't remember his name, Luke something. You know, Golden Gloves boxer, fucking prize fighter, is about to go pro, all that sort of shit. And he got into a fight at the nightclub, and then as he was storming out, he knocked into me by accident, and I like pushed him as he was walking out, and he turned around, and I literally just held my hand on his chest, and he was just throwing all these haymakers at me, not being able to hit me because his arms were short, and he just flailed at me for 5 seconds, and then he stormed off. I was like, that's the prize fighter of Devonport. Like as you say, like all form and style just goes out the fucking window. They just become
when
chimps.
exactly, when the animal comes out, like to hell with technique. It's like, no, I'm just gonna get you on the ground, just beat the absolute hell out of you. I mean, we don't need to talk too much about a certain group, in videos that we see, in America, where things get pretty feral. But
that said, having done a whole bunch of them, I really do rate boxing, because I mean, out of all of the martial arts, it is just so immediate. It's just so bam, straight away. Whereas a lot of the other stuff, I mean, I don't know about. Well, God, I mean, you've obviously seen a bunch being a bouncer, but have you ever seen somebody land a successful kick? I mean,
no.
Bruce Lee would have you believe that that's like the most important part of any fight is roundhouse kicking people in the face and flying dragon kick, like you're a Mortal Kombat character, flying across the screen getting somebody. But no, for sure. I mean, but yeah, I mean, like, so many of these things, they stayed with us for such a long time for a reason. It's because they were important. It's because they were important for dudes. And with these things not here, it's no wonder that we're seeing all sorts of problems with like things in the workworkplace, with like guys being more bitches, for lack of a better word. We're seeing
guys behaving like women.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, I can see it firsthand or hear it firsthand. So when I moved over here, I still kept in close touch with my friends from South Australia, and the ones that had always been, sort of executives in corporations. Like one of my good friends, he's still an executive in Telstra, and obviously they're just surrounded by women all the time. And I've noticed that the longer I've been away, and as he's sort of gotten older in that industry, every time I call him, he sounds more and more like a fucking woman on the phone, like talks in the same way as a woman. I'm like, you need to get out of that fucking place.
Yeah, I mean, I think another important thing to piggyback off of what you just mentioned there, Guard, is just male only spaces, because that's like traditionally what sports were. I mean, like Bronze Age Pervert talks about this a lot. Like, like the gymnasium was specifically just for men, and not, in a specific type of men. It wasn't open to all men. They were like heavily segregated places, but they were there for a reason, just to have, male only spaces where men could basically get shit done and not be influenced by, feminine behavior and feminine, backstabbing and other bullshit.
I really don't like this whole experiment with mixed gyms.
No, I'm not a fan of it at all. I mean, this has definitely been blowing up like the last 2 weeks or so. Like all these TikTok thoughts, wearing.
I've been raging about that for 10 fucking years. Ever since I started living in cities rather than rural areas, and I go to these gyms, I'm just like, this is fucking deranging. How am I supposed to pay attention to what I'm doing? Like, I can see your asshole through your leggings. what the fuck? I can see the exact outline of your vagina. Like, go and fucking put some clothes on.
Anyway, and there's always only like, I don't know. I mean, unless you go to a big gym, there's like going to be 3 or 4 different weights benches, and they've all got some chick on them lifting 2 kilograms. It's like, just fuck off.
Yeah, they're all doing hip thrusts with 2 kilograms on the benches.
Well, not only that. I mean, I've given it up. So I did join a gym near me, and it was just full of that women lifting 2 kilograms on the benches. And the other thing is, now they're all coming in with these like stands with lights on them, and they like put their phone in the middle of it. Seriously, they got these like special stand things. And I was staring at one girl. She probably made a TikTok video out of me because I was staring at it. I was trying to figure out what the fuck this thing was, but it's basically a light setup with a phone that goes in the middle so that she can film herself the whole time.
For God,
so I've given that up. I've gone to kettlebells now. I can do that at home.
Unbelievable. Yeah, I'm my buddy Jack Napier, he's a big fitness guy, and becoming more and more of an advocate of the home gym at this point. Number one, because I don't want to pay out the ass for it, and number two, like it's so annoying to see like people just taking up the equipment when they don't really belong there. I mean, let's be real here. Do women really need to be in the gym working on most of these muscle groups? They really don't. Let's be real here.
I think going for a run, that should do them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I can't help but notice whenever I see these particular women. I mean, I haven't been into a commercial gym for 2 or 3 years because we bought our own gym at home. But yeah, every time I went in there and I saw that particular style of gym thought, which was, ever increasing, and it's so sad too, because you see a lot of, like, if you are at a gym for long enough, you start to see, the teenage girls that come in after high school, and you can slowly see over time they start adapting the same clothing as these thoughts, and so you've got 15, 16-year-old girls wearing the same attire that these older gym thoughts are wearing. I'm looking at it, I'm like, this is fucking terrible. But like, I was just going to say, like, you'll notice that the 9 out of 10 their exercises are going to be some variety of a hip thrust, some variety of a weighted hip thrust with their legs open. It's just like,
well, at least they're learning something useful.
Yeah, exactly. For sure. I mean, yes, gyms absolutely, should be segregated. As much as, I do enjoy looking at pretty women and stuff like that. It's not the place for it. I mean,
there's time and place for everything.
Yeah. It's distracting.
Right,
yeah. It's just, yeah, it's entirely too distracting. I'm there to, pump iron, so to speak. I don't need to be like looking out the corner of my eye, because what are you gonna do? What are you not gonna look when this chick's ass is literally just hanging out in front of you? You can't not.
Yeah, and I keep seeing these Instagram posts or something like from women basically complaining that they've been going to a gym for 3 months to find a boyfriend, and it's not working or something, and then the other half of it is women complaining that some dude looked at them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they don't know what they want, as we all know. But that's the thing, though. Like, you got to be careful, because, like, yes, can it be a fantastic place to pick up chicks and find yourself a very attractive woman? Yeah, it can be. But the problem is that basically it's like one strike and you're out.
Yeah,
it's like, okay.
It's very, very rare, because, like, the problem with that is, if it's your only gym that you go to and you go and, make it uncomfortable by getting rejected by a girl at the gym, either she or you are not going to want to go there. So, like, that's always on the back of everyone's mind, I think, is like, you don't shit where you eat, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And
gyms and workplaces, I wouldn't want to pick up a girl.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like it was back in the day. I mean, like, most people met their significant others, like, either in the workplace or something like that. But it's just, you can't do it these days. Like, all it takes is one call from HR or one person to report, and you're basically
that was another age though, wasn't it? I mean, and that would be in our parents' generation. It was either the church or the workplace where you met your other. And for my generation, it was always bars and pubs and nightclubs and that kind of thing. But I don't think the younger kids these days, I don't think they go out anymore. I think it's all just swiping.
Yeah, that's basically it. I mean, like, I mean, I see it too. I mean, I'm 29, which is like, not super old, but I just see, like, the gap between people who are like in their mid 20s to early 20s now, like, to when I was there. It's like, my God, like, people really just do not go out. Like, they just don't do anything. So no wonder, like, everyone's so black-pilled on, like, dating apps and stuff and everything like that, because, like, of course it's going to be more difficult than that. Go meet somebody in real life. You're going to have a much better chance.
Yes.
If that even works anymore, I don't know. I mean, I just kind of guess that it's the top 10-15% of guys just getting hookups all the time on these apps, and then the rest of them are going nowhere.
Yeah, more or less on the apps, for sure. I mean, the thing is though, is like, you get so much more leeway, like, if you're actually in person, because, like, so much of, like, the attraction process for dudes is like, how charming are you? Are you good at banter? Like, are you fun to be around and stuff like that? And you really just can't get that, when you're on an app. So, like, adapt or die, but yeah, it's something we got to be tackling and everything like that. But so let's talk about, like, I guess, like, the animating spirit that, like, sports can, give you as a person. I mean, like, we just had, like, the World Cup here. I mean, obviously, in ages past, it was more, let me say, patriotic, I guess, than it is now. What do you guys have to say about that? Like, sports is like, a form of patriotism or something like that. You get to represent, the home team, so to speak.
I don't know.
Never got too much into it, Dan. Yeah,
I used to be a bit more patriotic than I am. Now I just think that my country is utterly corrupted along with all the rest of them. So, unless it was tough, unless it was like Russia playing or something, I just wouldn't know who to support.
What a great joke. I love it.
No joke detected.
Yeah, of course, of course.
It'll be whenever the World Cup starts, Dan will put on his Ushenka and his AK-47 and
did they get
march
kicked
down the
out of
street.
the World Cup? Is that a thing, or just
I'm
Russia
sure
didn't play?
probably.
Or yeah,
I'd
Do
imagine
they?
would be.
I didn't even know they played soccer. There you go.
yeah. I don't know either. I mean, aren't they usually under like 6 feet of ice? You know, like can they even do it? But interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, how are you going to feel patriotism when you're playing for a team for a government that hates you and all your teammates' names Ngubu?
yeah, yeah,
and
that is.
they all have to do that kneeling shit and all the rest of it.
And
Yeah.
half of them are Algerian or Nigerian from France and now living in Manchester or Birmingham or something.
Yeah.
Great. These are my countrymen.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a problem in that regard, for sure. You know, but like my brain just still goes back to, you know, like I mean, like the Olympics, you know, and stuff like that. And like in ancient Greece, you know, like each city state putting forth like their, you know, strongest guy to compete, like for the glory of, you know, that place, you know. And I do feel like they're, I don't know, maybe it is just some like romanticism of like being children or stuff. But I do remember a time when I was a kid. I mean, like in 2000, was it 2000 or it was like 98 or something? At least one point in my lifetime, there was an Olympic Games in America. I forget which year it was. And everybody was, you know, pretty ecstatic and hyped for it, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I guess like it's coming to America again in like the 2030s. I doubt it's going to be the same kind of energy.
We literally have no Olympic enthusiasm in Australia anymore. It used to be a huge event, like as you said. And I remember, you know, as a young kid, whenever the Olympics was on, it was like the whole country would stop for an entire week or 2 weeks or however long it was to watch it. Now it's just ignored. Like no one pays any attention to it. So.
Yeah, it is. It is sad to see. You know, I mean, like, I don't know. Part of me definitely does want to, you know, maybe the word is romanticize, like about sports and stuff like that, because it has been influential for me in my own life. And also like I did grow up watching a bunch of it, and it was a good like bonding activity, like just for other men, you know. I mean, like it's just something that guys do too when you get like to a family gathering or something, you know. Like one of the things that goes on here in America when we have Thanksgiving is that there are always two teams that play a football game on Thanksgiving. The Dallas Cowboys and the Detroit Lions will always play a football game. And what happens is like the girls will go do their own thing, and the men will grab a bunch of beers and they'll start watching football, and they'll just like, you know, shoot the shit together, you know, and stuff like that. And, you know, it's I don't just want to toss those aside as just like, oh, like, you know, crybaby consumerism, or, you know, watching, you know, like the Ethnics play or something like that. You know, that's, I want to, you know, there is something deeper there that I think we are missing, even though like, obviously, you know, it has become a path for subversion, as we like to call it.
So one of the things I've always admired about the American sports approach is, I think this is the case. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but you've got a much more vibrant sort of college thing or local town thing. So I kind of imagine that if I was there, I would just ignore all the national stuff and just follow like whatever the local college team was. Is that right? Is that like a strong thing?
Yeah. The college sports is a huge market over here. The two big ones are college football and college basketball. You know, they are really big here,
because that feels more real. Because I mean, you know, as you've already mentioned, like Manchester United football team. I mean, I don't think there's anyone on the squad who's actually from Manchester or was born in Manchester.
But that was always the No, I was going to
Yeah.
say that was always the principle of those teams that you're playing soccer is you're representing people that have come from that locale, and everyone in that locale knows those people either directly or indirectly through another person or family. So there was that tribal element to it. But yeah, as you say, that's literally just completely the opposite now. They just like parachute in foreigners to play on their team. So.
Yeah, it's a big thing over here. One of like the chief money making apparatuses for all these colleges and universities is like their sports and ticket sales, because all of the alumni will come back, you know, to support their teams and stuff like this. And there's a whole culture around like, you know, tailgating, like these games, like everyone gets all their trucks lined up together and everyone's drinking beer outside the stadiums and everything.
So am I to understand that the college football teams are like, are they like draft test sort of games, or are they in and of themselves spectator sports? That why is it because at that age they're at their peak, or like,
Well,
what's the deal there?
well, let me. It's kind of all the above, like
Right.
one of the problems is as well is that because this is such a moneymaker, it's expanded so much. So you have
Mm,
like it's an absurd amount of universities and colleges in America at this point, somewhere like 4 or 5 thousand at this point are in America, and all of them have like sports teams. Now, of course, all of them aren't nationally, covered and everything like this, but
mm,
you have, a good 100, 150, really, really big professional big time schools that people will pay attention to and fork out
mhm,
like tons and tons of money for. And it kind of is like the huge experience also when you're there, like on these big campuses. You have like 40,000, student campuses, and all of them are dressed up in like face paint and war paint and just
mm,
absolutely going bananas like for their teams. I mean,
right.
Okay, so is it a college thing, as in our universities, or a high school thing, or
Uh,
both?
it's both. It's both, but
Okay.
it kind of gets bigger and bigger as you go up the chain. So like there's
Okay.
still like there's a lot of high school events that people go crazy for, especially in the South. The South is really, really big on like high school football and stuff. And it's also really, really big for college football as well. But it's kind of like a progression that
Yeah.
like these young boys will basically just start playing, ball when they're like 9, 10 years old, and they'll
Mm,
just
Mhm.
progress like all the way through. They'll play all the way through high school. They'll get to college. They'll get drafted right into the pros, like right from college. So it's a whole experience, and
so
it's
it sounds like it's a way to make sure that there's football on all year round to watch,
um
or do they stop in winter?
kind of. They still all follow the same season. Like it
Right,
goes from fall into February basically.
right.
So like September to February is football season, and then
Okay.
there's yeah, but then there's other sports that people watch in the other time as well. I mean, America's pastime, baseball. That sport starts in March and goes all the way to October, sometimes November, depending on how long the playoffs go. But
Mhm.
sports culture is huge over here in America. I mean, we kind of basically invented, like professional sports, like in a televised
Dude.
capacity and everything. Well, I don't know, man. I'm gonna argue. I'm gonna strongly argue on this one. It's we really did make it into like the giant mega business that it is today. I mean, the Super Bowl is the most televised event every single year. The most
In
eyes
the
are on
fall.
screen, all the time.
Really?
Yeah. You can look up the numbers. Yeah,
Well,
everyone's.
as in worldwide viewing, you're saying that the Super Bowl gets more worldwide views than other sports?
Oh, it definitely does than other
Huh.
sports. I mean, the World Cup might beat it, but that's only because it's on every 4 years. But like every year, like the Super Bowl is constantly up on the top. And it's so big to the point that all like the big advertising companies and everything, it's kind of like a tradition that like Coca-Cola or Pepsi or Amazon or all these companies, what they'll do is that they will get specific ads for the Super Bowl, and traditionally they're kind of like jokes. And the thing is like you don't actually know what the ad is until the way end. It's kind of like a miniature story arc, and then you're like, oh my god, it's a Coke ad or something like that. There's a history of them intentionally throwing the viewers off what the actual ad is, and this has been going on for well over 50 years at this point. But of course,
Mm.
like the last like 4 or 5 years, the commercials have become very gay, which is sad.
Yeah.
Because like when we were kids, it was really cool. They would like resurrect like old actors, like Liam Neeson would just randomly pop up in like a Super Bowl ad or something, or you'd get like Jim Carrey or something, just random actors will be in an ad for this one product, and they just spend tons and tons of money to get in front of everybody for it. It's
Mm.
it's a whole business here for sure.
Is it like that meme of they've got like these two dudes kissing or something, and then it's like it cuts to the ad agency, and it's like, how is this going to help us sell hamburgers? And the
Yeah,
guy's like,
yes.
hamburgers?
Yeah, it's basically exactly that the past couple of years for sure. Absolutely.
Just
But
As
30,
someone
30 seconds of gay sex followed by the Coke logo.
yeah, it's funny though, because like back in the day when we were kids, they used to be like really, really risque. Like there was an ad, I'll never forget it. When I was a kid, it must have been like early 2000s or something. It was an ad for Skittles, and basically what it was a husband and a wife fucking on a bed like right after their honeymoon, and then when the guy goes to bust a nut, it's a bunch of Skittles that goes on the chick's face. Yeah, I'm dead serious. I'm dead serious. You can look this shit up. You can look it up. Yeah, it's bananas, but
Yeah, if
so
they remade that today, it would have to be either a black dude or two dudes, or one of them's a tranny, or
yeah.
yeah, No, for sure.
You know, I must say, as I've always been the eternal Daria when it comes to the sports question. You know, I was always the cringe kid at school who's like, sports fucking gay. So I've been saying sports gay my whole life, and now I've grown up, and now it's come
Now it's
true.
actually gay.
I feel like I willed
Yeah,
it into being.
yeah, you willed it into existence for sure.
That's right.
Wow, my God. But yeah, that's why I still have like some romanticism for it. Like it's interesting though, because like for the longest time, and this is why everybody will watch it, because they will watch it like to see, oh, what's the funky, cool ads. And it was like the water cooler topic, you'd have in like the office, like, oh, did you see that hilarious, new ad or something like that. They would also do like a bunch of movies would get like their first trailers like during the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the halftime show is always like the big thing. So it's like this really big extravagant, like some singer or some performer gets out there and does a huge, performance out on the field and everything like this. And ironically enough, over the past like 4 or 5 years, a bunch of memes have been made from a bunch of these halftime shows. So, they're definitely like cultural moments and stuff. And I remember when I was a kid, there was like I think it was like who was it, Janet Jackson or something, like her tits came out live on air, and that was a big
yes.
yeah, that was a big issue over here.
I'm hearing about that.
Isn't that with Justin Timberlake or something? Like
yeah, I think that's what it was. Yeah. So, it's a whole event, and everybody's going to be watching it. I'll be over at a friend's house. They're having a big party, so everyone will be there. And it's interesting because, like, well, they got these ads, and so the women can watch it as well. And they're like, oh my God, we get to look at the ads. They're really funny and stuff. They don't really give a shit about the game, but yeah.
How's it in Australia, Chris? Do you ever see people watching American football? Because
no,
I don't think it's had any penetration over here in the UK.
No, not at all. No, we'll watch World Cup soccer and that sort of stuff, but no, definitely no. What do you call it over there? NFL?
Yeah, NFL. Yeah.
Our basketball makes its way through.
Oh, really? Interesting.
But,
That's weird, because I figured in like your part of the world, because like baseball is really big in Japan and South Korea and stuff like that. So I figured like
not here.
Interesting. Yeah, but you guys have cricket. Yeah, you guys have cricket, which is weird baseball, and then you have rugby, which is like rougher football. So
well, it's like your football, except without the body armor and the breathers every 30 seconds.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. Well, this will probably be the last thing we touch on, and then we could wrap up here. But on the topic of like rugby being more up in your face and stuff, this is something that has been going on in football and other American sports for a long time. Is that they're becoming more and more safe. And more feminized. The sense of like,
I can sort of see why, because now for the first time ever, they're starting to see the medical outcome of that full contact sport, which is CTE. And before they had no concept of that, like that, like they didn't really have a medical explanation.
And it's making the games not as pleasant to watch, because certain plays and certain tactics that are intrinsic to the sport itself are now, haram, basically, and it's like, okay, well, if I can't like touch the guy anymore, this is literally football. We're supposed to be two freight trains running into each other, beating the crap out of each other. And if I can't touch the dude at this certain point when the ball leaves his hand, it's like, okay, then why am I watching this anymore? There's a big thing, like baseball as well. Like, you're not allowed to slide into people's legs anymore, and that was a classic. That was a classic in ancient baseball, where guys like with their sharp cleats would intentionally like go right for people's like knees and shins, like to try and make them drop the ball. But yeah, they're feminizing all of our sports, guys. What the hell are we gonna do?
Black Bill Bogan says we've either got rugby or Aussie rules football in Australia. I don't know if you've ever seen Aussie rules. Footy.
It's very strange. Someone tried to explain it to me.
It's fucking messy. It plays out really messy. There's not as much.
What is Aussie rules? I've never heard of that. What's that?
It's sort of just like a free form rugby. Like, you're holding the ball and kicking it. It's an oval shape. And it's a lot more loose. Like, they're sort of free to move around a little bit more.
So it's kind of illiterate rugby then.
It's fucking weird. It's really hard to explain to people that don't know what it is. But they're doing the same thing with that, even though they didn't really. I don't think they really had much of an issue with CTE, because it wasn't that like charging at each other head on. But they're still taking out basically most of the contact abilities in that as well. It's yeah, and as you say, it completely fucking ruins the tense sort of and like exciting aspect of the sport is because these people are getting paid enormous amounts of money to put their bodies on the line, and that's their fucking job. They chose that career, so it's like.
Yeah, and in the American context, making millions upon millions of dollars in the process of doing so, and yeah, I don't have too much sympathy for these guys, like, oh man, I didn't know like the risks. Like, shut up, dude. What did you think was going to happen to you?
Yeah.
It seems completely bizarre to me that they're like trying to take all of the risk out of American football and all these other sports at the same time mandating a certain product gets injected into their arm. I mean,
yeah. Well, the eternal gynocracy we live under that we have to deal with. So, well, this will be a task for us to do and tackle when we win and when we take over. We will reinstitute sports in all of our schools. All of our boys will have full contact from the age of 4, immediately, and thinking about war, and we'll be in segregated gyms, of course. And it will be the unstoppable rise of the new right-wing age to come, of course. So, all right, let's wrap it up here. Dan, where can people find you, man?
They can find me at lotuseaters.com, where I do the Tuesday show.
All right, cool. And then Guard, what do you got, man?
Yep, just go to my YouTube channel, Chris Gard, Gard. You'll find my music and general bollocks on that channel. I'm going to try and start doing some live streams with Mr. D. I have to set up a channel for him though, because he doesn't want to provide any details personal in order to set up an account. So we want to do some streams where we're going to be judging the genetic stock of certain men, because I'm not a fellow man enjoyer like he is, but I do have a keen eye for what is a genetically gifted man, and it's actually quite fun sometimes to check out the genetic quality and make commentary on it. It sounds feminine, and it probably is, but it's enormous fun, especially with
you guys are gonna be like the counter to AA's Who Would You Do? You guys are just gonna be like going through Handsome Thursday, like bath post, hilarious. But all right, cool. And then for myself, guys, check out the Substack, check out the Twitter, check out the Old Glory Club, support our work over there. And
yes, they do good. They do very good work over there.
Yeah, it's going great over there. So we thank you for your support, and we'll see you guys in a little over an hour here, because we got the poker stream coming up later. So we'll be playing some cards on the channel as well. So, all right, see you guys next time.
Bye.